All right, Jay. I thought this might be kind of fun. We're going to take a little walk down memory lane with you, okay?
Okay.
You have no idea where I'm going with this,
idea.
but I have a feeling that you're going to catch up really quickly.
He's got flashbacks coming back from episode 85.
Yeah. So the setting for this little journey is Las Vegas, Nevada. The date is circa June 5th, 2005.
Oh, geez. Where'd you dig this up?
We see a fresh-faced Jason Steinhorn waiting to cash in his entry into the limit hold'em in the World Series of Poker, the $1,500 buy-in. I would love to hear where you pick this story up and find out what happened.
Yeah, I played a lot of poker when I was younger. Started when I was, before 21, would sneak into casinos. And poker was not popular when I started. This was like late 80s, early 90s. It got really popular in the early 2000s, Chris Moneymaker, and I lived in California. And so I decided, okay, I can give this tournament thing a try after playing cash games for 20 years. And went out to Vegas in 2005 to start playing tournaments. And first event I played actually was the event right before that. It was June 3rd, 2005. Did really well. It was a large event and made it to like the top 25 and thought, okay, I might be pretty good at this. So I played the next event. I was supposed to go home, but I played the next event, which was that limit hold'em event. And somehow I ended up at the final table. This is back when ESPN was televising the World Series of Poker. It was pretty big. Every like Tuesday night or something, an episode came out. And I ended up playing a final tables, longest final table in World Series of Poker history at the time. And at the time, I came in second, and the guy that beat me that got the bracelet ended up being the youngest World Series of Poker bracelet winner ever at the time. So it actually was a pretty notable event at the time.
Now, for the viewers, if you're watching on YouTube, here is
who is that guy?
Yeah,
that skinny guy without gray hair. Wow.
Oh, I love it. So here's my question for you, my follow-up on this. Okay, do you still have nightmares about a flop of 9-2-2? 9 of spades, 2 of spades.
Okay, so here's the
talk us through what was happening there. Because by the way, I used to be a really avid poker player, and just amateur level. I'm not World Series, but I'm really interested in what you have to say about that.
I'm curious. Was that the final hand that they showed? Was that my King 10 hand? Yep.
Yeah.
And
I researched this, and I never actually found what your hand was. They called it a reluctant call.
Yeah.
And then I thought you mucked them because I could never find anywhere on all these sites what your actual hand was.
Yeah, so. I had King high. I had King 10. I was hoping he was bluffing. I was down. I had very few chips left. And so fun fact about the World Series of Poker, they showed, I think, like 8 hands, 12 hands, something like that in the hour on ESPN. We played from noon until 5 a.m. And so it was basically 17 hours, and they narrowed that down to 12 hands. And so on that last hand, it really made me look bad. I got the nickname King 10 for a while, KT for a while with a lot of my friends, because it looked like such a bad play. It probably was a bad play, but after 17 hours and going back and forth in the chip lead, it just doesn't translate well to an hour of TV.
Well, my understanding is he caught the river, gave him a flush.
Yep.
So if it was a different color, your king might have held up. Right?
Exactly. I forget if he had an ace high flush, so he may have won anyway. But yeah, okay. I was pot committed by that final bet, so it wasn't as bad as anybody that watches it on YouTube. It wasn't as bad as it looks.
Hey guys, this is Ted with the Kash and Dash Show. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. I gotta get back to this reading group. Everybody say hi. Yeah!
Now, okay, so $240,000 or $240,042, is that right? Did they give you one of those big checks, like Happy Gilmore?
So actually, what they do is they give you chips, and then you can do what you want with the chips. Most people either put them in a safe deposit box if they're going to play with them. I went and turned it into the cage and had them cut me a check, but they actually hand you chips. And another fun fact: we had made a decision on how we were going to split the winnings hours before the tournament ended.
You're kidding.
It's
you and Eric Froelich?
Eric Froelich. So what's pretty common is at some point when it gets heads up, sometimes even when there are 3 people left, you make a deal. And you basically decide what the money is going to look like. And there was a one point where he was up a lot. I made a huge comeback. He was concerned about losing. So he said, okay, let's just make a deal here. They let you walk away from the table. We walked away from the table for about 15 minutes, negotiated, decided he was going to get, I think, 300. I was going to get 240. Regardless of the outcome, we were just playing for the bracelet at that point. So the money had been decided hours before, and we were playing for the bracelet.
Oh man, what a great story. Yeah. Now, okay, are you in witness protection? Because Jason Steinhorn, Jay Scott, Jason Scott, you're a man of many names.
Yeah. So legally
relocated to Sarasota under mysterious circumstances.
I've literally gotten asked that before. Am I in witness protection? I'm not in witness protection. Legally, when I was born, it was Jason Scott Steinhorn. When I got married, my wife and I couldn't decide on her last name or my last name. We didn't like either equally. So we decided let's do something different. And we ended up going with my middle name, which was Scott. So Scott is now both of our last name. And when I was in the tech world, I worked at Microsoft. And one of my bosses there was a guy named Jay Allard, who was a pretty senior guy at Microsoft. And his name was literally just the letter J. And I always thought that was the coolest thing, just having a single letter name. I couldn't do it back then because it would just look like I was copying off of him. But when I left the tech world and went into real estate, I'm like, hey, I can just adopt the J now. So
be whoever I want to be.
I can be whoever I want to be. So I became Jay Scott. Legally, it's Jason Scott. So I responded Jay or Jason, but that's where the J came from, and that's where the Scott came from.
Yeah, I was gonna say you know Ted and I, we had to buy a domain name for the new podcast, and like if you're one of those people that want to own your name.com, you're gonna have to shell out some money.
I paid 5 figures for jscott.com.
Oh, that's great, man! I have already learned something new about you. This is great.
What did you do with the winnings?
So I continued to play poker. It ended up being, I ended up meeting my wife about a year later, and she kind of got me out of the degenerate gambling phase of my life. And so that just ended up going into our savings. But I like to say I'm probably one of the few people who's been playing poker for 30 some years at this point. And I can say I've won money in that time. And so I don't have that money separate from everything else, but it definitely was helpful when we were starting out in a new marriage.
That is awesome. Of course, they probably raked about 50% of that for taxes.
Let me tell you something. I was in the tech world at the time, and I got hit that year. I cashed in a bunch of stock options. I had those winnings, and there's this thing called alternative minimum tax. For those of out there who don't know what alternative minimum tax is, I'm envious of you. But basically what it says is if you make a lot of money, ordinary income, like just gambling winnings or W-2 winnings, the government doesn't like when you try and shield some of that money through tax shields. And so basically they make you do this separate formula, and it ignores a lot of the deductions that you might be able to take. And whichever is higher, like the thing you came up with or this alternative minimum tax, whichever is higher, that's what you pay. And it's basically the government's way of saying, we're not going to let high income earners, people who make W-2 income, gambling winnings, we're not going to let them take advantage of all the benefits that investors, that business owners get to take advantage of. And it was actually pretty eye-opening for me. And it was one of the first times that I really started to think about how important it was to be doing stuff that really allowed me to save money on taxes, because every dollar you don't pay in taxes, you put somewhere else and you compound it. So it's not just the savings from not paying taxes, it's all the compounding that you get from putting that money to work. And that year was actually pretty eye-opening for me, like looking into how do I avoid paying taxes on all this money that I earned that year. And what I realized was there was really no good way to do it as a W-2 employee.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know this conversation was going to go this way, but that's really interesting. Yeah. So now we covered this last time. I'm sure you've talked about this enough to where you're tired of it, but you spent some time with some big tech companies, and you got into, leadership role, program, project, product management, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think when you look at, and you moved, I think at the time to Atlanta, if memory serves.
Correct.
Initially.
Yep.
Flipped a bunch of houses, got a lot of activity going, eventually led to where you are now with real estate. But what did you learn? Like, a lot of people that I'm sure you meet with, Ted, you and I meet with all the time, and they're just like really resentful of having their job. They are in such a hurry to get out of their W-2, and I get it. It just took me a lot longer than some of these people. But what did you pick up working for a well-run, or at least a larger business that had a lot of systems and processes in place already that has served you well now that you're on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I often say that the reason I've been successful in real estate is because when I started, I knew absolutely nothing about real estate. I have an electrical engineering degree, but I couldn't change a light bulb. My wife always jokes that like she wouldn't let me change a light bulb. That's how unhandy I was. So I certainly wasn't going to do rehab on my own projects. She wouldn't even let me paint houses. And so when you go into a business where you know absolutely nothing, where you can't do anything hands-on, where you can't basically put in sweat equity to save money, what you're forced to do is you're forced to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. You're forced to surround yourself with people who can do those things. And so when we got into real estate, I was forced to go out and find people that could help me find houses. I was forced to go out and find people who could renovate the houses, find people who could market and sell the houses, find people that could help me raise money. I couldn't do any of this myself. And so I ended up being the CEO. And too many people, when they start in a business, they don't think of themselves as a CEO. They think, well, I need to start from the ground up, which means I need to do as much of this stuff as I can myself. And then you get stuck in the business. I mean, I know it's cliche to say work on your business, not in your business, but it's a cliche for a reason. Too many people get stuck doing the menial tasks in their business. And I like to say, if I'm painting my own house, how much money am I making an hour? I'm making whatever I'm saving by not paying a painter. So I'm making $25-30 an hour by painting my own house. If I do my own electrical, maybe I'm saving $50 or $100 an hour if that's what an electrician makes. I didn't get into this business. I was making a whole lot more money in the tech sector than $30 an hour or $50 or $100 an hour. I got into real estate to make millions. And so I want to make $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour, $5,000 an hour. You can't do that by painting your own house, by doing your own electrical work, by even selling and marketing your own houses. You have to hire people that can do that for a lot less than the money you want to make. And you need to focus your time doing the couple things in a real estate business that will generate thousands of dollars an hour.
You hear a lot of people that when they're first starting out, it's a very similar story here. A lot of people, like you said, if they're swinging a hammer, doing electrical work, kind of, the manual labor stuff, painting, they do that because they don't have enough money, or at least they feel like they don't have enough money to pay somebody else to do it. Therefore, penny saved is a penny earned. How do you get to a point where you are operating like that as a CEO mindset, and you say, you know what, my job is to go out and find the right people that I can plug into these things that are needed to, to be done in my business? Like, any thoughts on that? Like, how does somebody walk into that with the right mindset? Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those people that says, just go figure it out, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Everybody can do it. It takes work and it takes effort and it takes sacrifice. And so I'm not saying day one for people that are coming into this business with no money, no resources, that it's necessarily going to be the way it was for me, where I could step into that CEO role. We were fortunate to have some money and be able to hire people. If you're not, then do it yourself on the first deal, do it yourself on the second deal, even the third deal, but have that mindset that this isn't the way your business is going to grow, and understand that by the time you get to that fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh project, you need to have saved money so that you can pull yourself out of that $25, $30 an hour, $50 an hour role so that you can be making real money. And so it sometimes it can take months, it can take years, but the key is having the mindset that this is where you're trying to get to, even if you can't start at that place.
Over time, you started in Atlanta, a lot of, and like you and I have talked about before, and with Ted, you were doing a lot of house flips at the time, lining up, kind of performing more of an oversight or a project manager, not project manager, maybe that's the wrong way to put it, or like a CEO.
Yeah, I actually had a project manager. I had somebody that was overseeing the contractors, because I literally didn't know what to be looking for. I didn't know if the contractors were doing a good job. If I can't do the electrical myself, I don't know if my electrician's doing a good job. So part of it was hiring a good project manager. I mentioned earlier that if you want to make money in real estate, focus on the things that generate a lot of money. In the house flipping world, there are two things that generate money: finding deals and finding funding. Those are the two things that generate you thousands of dollars an hour. If I can find a deal that generates $50,000 in profit, and I can do that deal because I've hired out other people, and I can do that deal in 50 hours worth of my time, then I just made $1,000 an hour. So finding deals is a great way to make a lot of money in real estate. The second way is to find the funding, to find the money. If I can do one deal at a time, I might make $1,000 an hour, 50 hours over several months. If I can do two deals in that same amount of time, and I can spend 100 hours over several months, well, now I can make twice as much. If I can find funding for 3 deals at a time, or 4 deals at a time, or 10 deals at a time, I can make 3, 4, 10 times as much because I can do things in parallel. And so if you want to make a lot of money flipping houses, and this is true in a lot of areas of real estate, the two best ways to do that are to focus on finding great deals and finding the money for those deals. And that's what I've found over the last 20 years has been the money makers in real estate. It's the people that can find deals and that can raise money that make the most.
Did you notice at some point from the time when you first started getting into real estate until, X amount of years or months later where it just got a lot easier? It kind of takes a while to get a train started, and then deals start coming to you from different sources, and it maybe gets easier to raise money. Do you remember, was there a moment or kind of a period you went through where it was like, oh man, it's clicking?
Yeah. And so a couple things. One, in terms of it getting easier, it gets easier after you've made a lot of the big mistakes. If I tell people that you're never going to avoid the big mistakes, do your best to avoid them. But the most important thing in this business or any business is never make the same mistake twice. And that was kind of the motto that my wife and I went into this business with, that we're going to make a lot of mistakes, but we will never make the same mistake twice. And things get pretty easy after 10 or 20 or 30 projects, because at that point, you've made all the big mistakes. You've screwed up enough that if you're not making the same mistake twice, now you're stuck with making the little mistakes that you can kind of, you can fix along the way, but you've gotten the big mistakes out of the way. So that's number one is don't make the same mistakes twice. And the way you do that is when you do make that mistake, take responsibility for it. I mean, this was another thing that was always huge in our business. Everybody that worked for us, it was take responsibility. Don't place the blame, take the blame. Me at the top, I was the CEO. My wife was co-CEO. I mean, everything that happened in our business, we would take responsibility for. We would basically say that was our fault. What can we do in our systems, in our processes to avoid that in the future? Because everything's about systems and processes. So number one is take responsibility, fix the problem so you don't make the same mistakes twice. The next thing that really made a difference for us was just the relationship building. I'm an introvert. I'm not good at relationship building. I'm probably better at relationship tearing down because I can be a jerk sometimes. But my wife is the best at relationship building. And she's the type of person that for no reason will pick up the phone and call a broker or an agent or a contractor or a stager or a lender or whatever and just say, hey, just was thinking about you, just wanted to say, hey, see how you were doing. And you'd be surprised picking up the phone and doing that with zero agenda. Sometimes you're going to hear, oh, while I have you, did I tell you about this deal that we have coming down the pipeline? While I have you, did I tell you about this opportunity? I need somebody and you were the perfect person. I hadn't even thought about you, but now that you called me. And so making an effort to build relationships and keep in touch with those people and do it without expecting anything in return is absolutely huge. Too many people in this business are transactional. They won't pick up the phone and call you unless they need something, unless they want something, unless they think you have something that you can offer. Get in the habit of just building relationships without expecting anything in return, because it'll come back to you eventually.
This is why Tinder got so popular.
Tinder?
I jumped on with an expectation.
What's funny is I had a just kind of a highlight here of something, a topic I wanted to bring up. And this, I mean, we already kind of segued into it. Is one thing I've always loved about you and your approach has been you are just so giving of information to people that are starving for it. And, you were very active on BiggerPockets, and it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong here because you've been on a million podcasts now, but writing your favorite medium?
By far.
Yeah. And that's originally how I started following you with your 123 Flip website, and like you're chronicling all of your trials and tribulations through that. And I was just like, this is so cool. Nobody's doing this.
Yeah, I was fortunate to have started at the time when the flip shows were getting popular. So the medium or the industry in general was getting big, but the Medium blogs and articles and stuff wasn't that big. And there was nobody out there that was actually digging into the numbers and the details. It was basically everybody was using their blogs as marketing. Hey, let me tell you about this flip I bought for 100K and I sold for 200K. So I made 100K. We'll ignore the fact that I actually had to spend a whole bunch of money. Don't think about that. And I was willing to kind of jump in and say, well, I'm doing this to keep myself accountable, to help other people. So let's look at the real numbers. And if I lose money on a deal, great, let's talk about it. If I make mistakes on a deal, great, let's talk about it. And I did that. I think I was fortunate that I did that at a time when nobody else was doing that. And that allowed me to build a little brand that I've been able to kind of snowball over the last 20 years.
And just to kind of peel back a layer on this, you didn't have any intention of, it didn't seem like you had any intention of funneling that, kind of like reputational capital that you had built by giving away so much of this info. I mean, didn't seem at all like what your intent was. You're just sharing like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. We did well on this one. Here's the numbers, all that. That's what.
It never even occurred to me that I could monetize my brand, that I could be monetizing my efforts. I literally did it for two reasons. One, well, I'm going to say three reasons. Number one, it was to keep myself accountable. I knew if I was posting and people were reading, and I expected it would just be my friends and family. But I knew if my tech friends were reading about how I left the tech world making a lot of money to jump into real estate and I stopped posting and stopped doing it, they'd be like, what the hell did you, what the hell were you doing? So I knew I had to do it.
Jay must have crashed and burned.
Exactly. And
I haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah. So number one, I was doing it to keep myself accountable. Number two, I love to teach. One of my friend, Matt Faircloth, likes to ask people, what's your superpower? Because that's how you're ultimately going to be successful in the world, by leveraging your superpower. My superpower is, well, a couple things. One, I can make difficult concepts simple. But number two, the reason I can do that is because I remember very clearly what it felt like to be an idiot and not know anything. And so when I explain things to people, I can remember back when I didn't understand that topic. And so I think I'm pretty good at explaining it in a way that I could have understood it if I was explaining it to myself 20 years earlier. And so teaching was just something that comes naturally for me that I really enjoy doing. And then the third reason that I've come to continue to do it is a little bit selfish, a little bit self-centered, but I like having the brand. I like the fact that I can go to a conference and I'm an introvert again. I don't need to walk up to people and start talking to them because everybody's going to walk up and start talking to me because people know me through my books. They know me through BiggerPockets. They know me through my podcast, whatever it is. And so people are always going to come up to me and talk to me. That makes my life so easy as an introvert. And if I want to meet somebody, like I'm not comfortable picking up the phone and calling somebody, but it makes it a lot easier if I know I can just send them an email and they'll be like, oh, Jay Scott, yeah, I'll talk to him. And so kind of the reputation capital side of things came along later when I realized that by doing this, getting my name out there, building a brand, it would just make my life easier from a social standpoint of not having to be extroverted.
Yeah. Now, kind of tying back to BiggerPockets, you were contributing a lot of just, and I'm not sure how they label it now because it's changed a lot, but you were basically just posting articles and blogs on your own.
Yep.
And then I would assume at some point they probably reached out to you, whether it was Josh or somebody on their team and just said, hey, love what you're doing. Can you be a featured actual BP sponsored person to put out content? Is that what happened?
It never actually worked that way. So Josh Dorkin started the site back in 2004. I joined in 2008. Again, I knew nothing. I was just trying to learn real estate. And so I joined hoping to learn how to flip houses. And just like I was doing on my blog, I would answer questions as I could. Like if I learned something and somebody asked, hey, how do you do this? And I had just learned it that past week, I'd be like, well, let me tell you what I learned. And so I started answering questions, asking questions, answering questions. And over time, I would ask fewer questions because I was getting more experience, but I would keep answering questions. And so at some point, I became like the top contributor on the site. Josh reached out to me and we became friends. I actually spent a lot of time with Josh back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, helping him because I knew the technology side. He was doing it on his own. He had a development team overseas. And other than that, like it was just him. So I kind of came on as his like, not a CEO or not a CTO, but kind of like a de facto help on the technology side of things, giving him advice. We became friends. And so I just kept going to the site. I kept posting. And then it was 2013. I was getting a lot of requests because the blog had gotten big. I had gotten popular in BiggerPockets, and BiggerPockets had gotten big. I had been on the BiggerPockets podcast, which had gotten big. And people were reaching out to me saying, hey, can I ask you a question? Can I take you to lunch? Can I pick your brain? I love that phrase. Can I pick your brain? Please don't ever, nobody asked me that.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's my pet peeve. And everybody just wanted to reach out.
You're talking his love language right now.
Yeah.
And I'm an introvert. And so doing phone calls, going to lunches, whatever, my wife would love that. Me, I hated it. And I said to my wife, I like helping people, but all these people keep bothering me. She's like, write a book. Take all this information that people want to know, write a book. And then when somebody calls you, just say, go buy the book. And if they buy the book and then they have questions, you'll be a lot more inclined to help them because they'll have given you a few bucks.
That's a great mic drop moment too. Be like, look, yeah. Go read the book.
Yeah, go read the book, and then if you have questions, come back and talk to me. And so I decided to write a book, and I reached out to Josh Dorkin, and I said, "Hey, I'm planning to write a book. Do you want to co-brand it with BiggerPockets?" BiggerPockets Publishing didn't exist at the time, and I said, "I'd love if we just sell it through the site or something. You can co-brand it. We can split the royalties." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." And so I wrote the book on flipping houses. One chapter in that book was 200 pages. It was the estimating chapter, how to estimate rehab costs. So I said, well, okay, that's too long of a book. Let's turn that into a separate book. And so I created the book on estimating rehab costs. And in spring of 2013, Josh and I just kind of published the book. I threw it up on Amazon. We were doing whatever Amazon did with you order it and they print a copy right then and mail it out. Josh was allowing me to promote it on the site. We put BiggerPockets as the publisher on there, and the book became popular enough that Josh said, hey, I'm going to start a publishing company, number one. And me, I'm like, wow, people actually know me from this book. It became the top selling book on flipping houses. And so that kind of launched my brand. It helped BiggerPockets. It launched BiggerPockets Publishing, and it just kind of happened accidentally.
Fun fact, I have an ebook of the book on estimating rehab costs. And so your first two books, I was one of the, it wasn't published, I don't think. It was just, that was the only way you could get it. Otherwise, I would have gotten the book, I think.
Interesting.
I don't remember the time. Yeah, but I have both of those, and it was on a hard drive from 3 computers ago. So I have it on a flash drive somewhere. But yeah, that was good. It was good stuff.
Yeah,
I was curious because inflation happens so fast, especially in construction. Where you know what I mean. I'm sure you got that a lot. We're hey, look at these costs in here are way off of estimating. You know what I mean? So it's you could just set it up for different volumes each year.
Yes. And it's actually been one of the difficulties with that book. And I like to say the book on estimating rehab costs, it's not a price guide. It's a book about how to go through the methodology of creating a scope of work. Like I said, when I started, I knew nothing, and I'm not trying to pitch the book here, but I knew nothing. And I didn't know how to go in and inspect a house. And it's probably the most important thing if you're going to flip houses is to know how to do an inspection and figure out what you're actually going to spend money to renovate. And so the goal with that book was to teach basically how to do an inspection, how to put together a scope of work, how to figure out what needs to be done and what should be done. And then at the end of that process to figure out how much it costs. And the how much it costs is kind of, at the time, it wasn't the goal of the book. The goal was the process. But everybody read the title, which is estimating rehab costs, and everybody assumed, okay, I can pick this up and it'll tell me exactly how much my rehab should cost. Unfortunately, it's not that easy. Or maybe fortunately, because if it were that easy, everybody would be doing it.
Plus, it's New York City versus Omaha or Atlanta. They could just vary wildly on the pricing.
Can you imagine how often you'd have to update the pricing? Oh, should I just update the prices? They attacked Iran.
Yeah, war in Iran. Can't get any oil now. Everything goes up. No, that's great. Yeah, thank you for digging into that a little bit. Speaking of geopolitical stuff,
your favorite topic.
So yeah, I think unintentionally now you occasionally, or actually not occasionally, frequently get into some heated discussions that people are trying to force you into a political discourse when it's actually economics.
Especially when it was drunk real estate.
And I hate the fact that I enjoy it. Like my wife will tell you, I love to argue. I can argue any side of any issue. And so, if people are generally pretty good at getting me to argue about things that I shouldn't be arguing about. I like economics. I like politics. I don't like to mix the two. Because too often today, everybody's kind of their view of the whole world, including economics, is clouded by their political opinions. And so I try really hard to kind of keep the two separate because if you want to have a non-biased, an objective view of the economy, you can't look at it through a political lens. And the crazy thing is, even if you do look at it through a political lens, if you're being objective, what you're probably going to find is both parties are kind of the same these days for the most part. But again, I don't want to get political about it, but I like talking about the economy. I like thinking about the economy. My goal at the end of the day is I want to figure out how I and the people who are reading the stuff that I write and listening to the stuff I talk about can make more money. And politics, I'll argue about it all day, but at the end of the day, that's not going to make anybody more money. Understanding the economy, economics, the things that impact us as investors economically, that's the stuff that's going to make us or not make us more money. And so at the end of the day, that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah. Now, okay, if we could then, you put out some excellent content for anybody that doesn't follow you on the socials. What's your favorite? Like, you spend a lot of time on Facebook. I know I follow you on there, but
somehow I write a lot of long form content. Yeah. So Facebook, and I also have I call it a daily economics newsletter. It's not really daily; it's a couple times a week where I'll write long form articles.
Which is excellent, by the way. And now I do want to see what your take on this is, since there's been a lot that's changed over the last month in the world. And it seemed like, with the Fed lowering interest rates, that maybe we were, kind of like, let me back up a little bit. You've stated a few times, and I'm paraphrasing here, but we kind of achieved a little bit of a soft landing coming off of those huge interest rate spike. And the Fed has been kind of gradually easing rates down over the last about year or so, maybe a little longer. But all of a sudden, we have this big conflict that happens in the Middle East, and it's like everything is kind of going haywire. Oil prices going up. What do you foresee like this? What's your hot take, Jay, on kind of the Iran conflict and what it's going to mean for all of us as Americans?
I'm so hesitant to say this, knowing that this is not coming out for another 2 or 3 weeks, because by the time this comes out, everything I say could be completely the opposite. Who knows? Let me start with this. And again, I hate to get political, but this is important to say. One, I'm not a fan of either party. I'm not a fan of the economic agenda of the previous administration or the current administration.
Hey, just so you know, unlike your previous podcast, we're not going to start a fight with you.
That's okay. Start a fight. I don't mind.
We got Kyle on the line. He has something to say.
Yeah, Kyle will fight with me just to fight with me. So I did not envy going into the election. What was it, last year? I did not envy whoever was going to win, because I was fairly certain that whichever party entered into office was going to face a recession during this term. I know it's not a popular thing to say. I thought the Fed had some missteps, but overall did a pretty good job of getting us from ridiculous inflation to a relatively soft landing. By soft landing, I mean we didn't enter into a recession. Jobs stayed strong. Inflation came down to 3%, which I know everybody's talking about this 2% inflation number, which is the Fed target. Historically, average inflation in the U.S. is 3.1%. So the Fed, back in, I think it was 2012 or 13, said, we want 2% inflation. Fun fact, the reason the Fed said we want 2% inflation was because inflation was close to 1% at the time. And in their minds, they wanted inflation to come up to 2%. And so that 2% number kind of stuck. But if you look at historical inflation in the US, we're basically, we were there last month. We're a little bit higher probably now with what's going on in Iran. But over the last year, we've basically been at historically average inflation in the US. It's not a bad number, even though we talk about it being high. It's higher than we want because there are reasons, national debt, interest payment reasons why we'd love to have it lower, but we're right where we've been for much of the last 100 years. So that said, I do think the Fed did a pretty good job of getting us a soft landing. That said, the economy is cyclical, and we see over the last 160 years, we've seen 36 recessions. So every 5 years or so, we see a recession. They're obviously getting longer over the last couple decades because the Fed and Congress and the president are intervening more in economic policy, and they're doing their best to avoid recessions. But having a recession every 4, 5, 6, 7 years is not uncommon in this country. And so the fact that we hadn't had a real recession, I'm going to ignore 2020 because that was so short-lived. It was so not orchestrated, but so based on an external event that nobody could foresee or control. The last time we had a real recession was 2008. That's 17 years, 18 years. It's never been 17 or 18 years in this country between recessions. And so I thought it was quite likely that whoever won back in November of last year, of 24, was going to face a recession during their term. So it doesn't surprise me that the economy is softening. It doesn't surprise me that I think we're going to see a recession over the next year or two. That said, I do think a lot of the economic and geopolitical policy of the current administration is exacerbating the recession that we're likely to see. It's making it worse. So I don't blame the current administration for a recession. I don't think they could have avoided it for 4 years, but I do think it's going to be worse based on their policy than it needed to be.
Jay, if you're a listener and you're like, I hear these numbers and they're provided by this website or the government's giving me these numbers, but so often people are saying that those numbers aren't real, or then they come out 2 months later and there's an edit, right? Yeah. Where do you get your information so you actually can feel like you're getting the real information?
Okay, so I'm not going to go into the revisions on like job numbers because I know it's a big thing, but I could explain that. I promise you I could explain that in a way that if I wanted to spend 5 minutes doing it, everybody would go, that makes perfect sense. So just trust me. And you can go read the stuff I've written if you don't want to trust me and think for yourself.
Read my book.
Not even read my book. Go read my Facebook posts. Just trust me when I say that jobs revisions doesn't mean manipulation. What it means is that we have very outdated collection, analysis, and reporting processes by the BLS, the organization that's responsible for putting out that data. They're using methodologies and processes that worked in the 70s, worked in the 80s, that just don't work anymore because we live in a different time and they haven't spent the tens of millions of dollars and all the time necessary to update those processes. It's not manipulation. It's just bad methodology. That said, I don't really care about the specific data. I know it's a weird thing to say, and I'll get there, but I don't care if unemployment is at 4.1% or 4.3% or 4.6%. I don't care if inflation's at 2.7% or 2.9% or 3.2%. I don't care if GDP is at 1% or 1.5% or 2%. What I care about is the trends. Because you could argue that the government does a really bad job at forecasting inflation or reporting inflation. Basically, they've changed the equation so many times that if you use the equation today back in the 90s, the data just wouldn't make any sense. And that's probably true. But what does make sense or what does matter is the trends, because the reporting, the analysis, the methodologies that are used today were the same as 6 months ago, same as 6 months from now. And so I don't care if inflation's again at 2.5% or 3.5% right now. What I care is over the last 6 months, has it gone up, has it gone down, or has it stayed the same? Because that's what tells me, again, I don't know if I trust the number or not, but I can definitely trust the trend. And so that's what I think everybody needs to be following. And to do that, you really kind of have to understand economics. You have to understand how these things work. But once you do that, saying, hey, inflation's gone up a 0.5 point or down a 0.5 point over the last 6 months, that's something to be concerned about as opposed to 3.1% inflation. Is that good or bad? I don't know if that's good or bad in a vacuum. But if you tell me that 6 months ago was 2.5%, I know that that's a trend that we need to be watching. If it was 3.5%, that's a different trend. And so trends to me are a lot more important than the specific numbers. And I don't know if the data is being manipulated. I tend to think the data is not being manipulated. I just tend to think that there are a lot of people who are using systems, processes, methodologies from 20, 30, 40 years ago that no longer make sense.
Do they still do those survey calls? Is that one of their data collection points?
They do. And
so ridiculous.
So on the job side, there's two ways they collect data. One, they literally make calls and they call individuals and ask them questions. If you don't answer your phone, you're not going to be reported. So who are the types of people that tend to answer their phone? Those are the people that factor into that survey. And then on the other side, they have this thing called the establishment survey, which is they mail out surveys to companies, and companies fill them out and send them back. If I don't send back my survey, if they send me a survey today for my company, I don't send it back this month, I don't get factored into the data. But if I send it back next month, I'll get factored into that first revision. If I send it back in 2 months, I'll get factored into that second revision. If I send it back in 6 months, I'll get factored into that annual revision. And this is where the revisions come in. Let's say the economy is getting worse, and let's say the labor market is getting worse. I get a survey today. I would fill it out and say, yeah, I'm not laying off anybody. But if the economy is getting worse, if the labor market is getting worse, and I fill out that survey a month from now, well, since things are getting worse, I'm likely to say, yeah, I'm laying off a couple people. If I wait 2 months to fill out that survey, I might say I just had to lay off a dozen people. If I wait 6 months to fill out that survey, I've laid off dozens of people because things are getting worse. And that's why the revisions tend to be downward these days, because the companies that are waiting to fill out those surveys, by the time they turn them in and they get factored into the revisions, things are worse and the numbers look worse. And if you look back 10 years, 2012, 13, 14, 15, all the revisions were upwards for the exact same reason or the opposite reason. Things were getting better. So if you waited 2 months to fill out a survey, you're probably reporting better data than if you filled it out on the first day. And so revisions were better. And that's why we see these negative revisions these days that everybody thinks is manipulation. It's not. It's an indication that the labor market has been trending downwards.
I really miss those good years.
Me too.
That was fun. It was very hard to make mistakes back then. Yeah, that in hindsight, we all knew exactly what we were doing back then.
It was so
good
easy.
days. Jay, speaking of knowing exactly what you're doing, you've mentioned your wife a couple times, the lovely, wonderful Carol Scott.
Yes.
Do you mind if we talk about the new venture?
Sure. I think she would appreciate it.
Yeah. So I discovered this. I don't even know how. I think you just either mentioned it in passing or maybe you made a Facebook post or something. And I was like, well, what is this? Like my family loves that type. I love them and they're dangerous to have around. But she started a business called Smooch Cookie.
Yep.
Correct.
That's correct.
And talk us through this. I've been really curious on what was the origin. I didn't even know she liked to bake. By the way, you have maintained your weight nicely.
I've maintained it way too high.
Yeah.
It's not coming down because of her. Yeah.
So how did it start? What was the origin story of Smooch?
Yeah. So my wife has always been some combination of a business person and also a design person. She's very much into design and she's just amazing at anything design related. And so for a decade, she was my co-CEO flipping houses and working in the real estate business. She never really liked it. So flipping houses, doing real estate just wasn't her thing. She was good at it because she did a lot of the networking and she did a lot of the staging and she did a lot of the marketing and sales, which she's great at, but she never really loved it. A couple years ago, I ended up moving into multifamily with my partner, Ashley Wilson. My wife used that as an opportunity to basically become a stay-at-home mom, hang out with the kids, and basically enjoy the kids. About a year ago, she realized kids are in high school. They don't really want anything to do with her anymore or me. And
that's tough, man. I'm going through the
so
same
depressing.
thing. His are a little bit behind. I'm like, just wait, man. Just wait. They hit about 12, 13, 14. You're done. Like, that's it.
Yeah, it's hard. And it was really hard for her. And so she kind of lost her identity. For a long time, her identity was tech. I mean, she was Meg Whitman's right-hand woman at eBay. Like, she spent years flying a corporate jet with Meg Whitman. So she had high-powered tech job. And then she was doing real estate with me, which wasn't high-powered at all, but it was a business thing that she could take pride in. And then she really enjoyed being a stay-at-home mom and spending time with the kids. And then a couple of years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago, it got to the point where she kind of lost that identity. She wasn't doing a business thing. She wasn't doing the tech thing. She wasn't doing the stay-at-home mom full-time thing anymore. And she was itching to do something. And so I said, find something that you would really love. Don't worry about, just because I'm in real estate doesn't mean it has to be real estate. Just go find something. It doesn't matter if it makes money or not, just something you would love to do. And she decided she wanted to start a gifting business, basically a business creating gifts, making people happy. That's what she loves to do. She loves to create things that make people happy. And so she wanted to start a business where she could allow people to give gifts. And she decided that the first gift that she was going to do was going to be cookies, because she likes making cookies, and cookies were relatively easy. She could focus on the gifting part. She didn't have to focus on the product part as much. And so she started the company Smooch Cookie, which is a gifting business around cookies. So if you want to give high-end gifts, cookie gifts, like these half-pound, really nice, well-designed, amazingly good cookies, that's what her company does. And so she spent about a year, like she's a planner. She spent about a year creating some amazing packaging and designs, amazing branding, amazing naming, and all that stuff, and launched it about 6 months ago.
Yeah, well, they are delicious. I know I have made three different orders. One of them
I have gotten 3 orders of cookies from you, which are Carol's cookies.
So, but I really enjoyed them. Kids and family. I mean, we mowed through those things like termites.
For the record, I had my daughter Skylar put a cookie in a picture and send it to Owen as a thank you. And I said, and then we got talking. I was like, yeah, just go ahead and send it to him and tell him they could use it for marketing.
Yeah, but I do want to give props though. You mentioned, it's a gifting company. Obviously, it sounds like cookies are kind of step one, maybe, and but the packaging is just so good. Like, it is premium packaging. So if you want to, I'll give you an unpaid shill here, unless you want to contribute a little something to the Kash and Dash Show. But I do want to give her props, and they were delicious, and the packaging was just amazing. Corporate gifting. I sent those out to 10 of my favorite people and Ted. But yeah, it was just delicious. So I just wanted to call that out.
I appreciate that. And let's add some value to the listeners as well. We found that this has been an amazing opportunity to kind of reconnect business wise with the kids, because as of today, and at least for a little while longer, this is a venture that we're doing out of the house, or she's doing out of the house.
You guys are baking all those cookies in house?
Oh my God, yes! And
that was one of my questions.
So I wish I had a picture, but basically we hired some electricians to come in and to pull some 220 or some 240 lines to put in basically commercial ovens in our kitchen. And so we have commercial mixers, like these huge 30 quart mixers, these commercial ovens. So our kitchen now looks like a restaurant because she's just not ready to get a separate space. And it's been crazy. But it's been a great opportunity to basically pull the kids. Like, we did this with real estate for a long time until the kids kind of got to the point where, like, we don't want to have anything to do with real estate. Hopefully they'll come back. But after years of basically involving them in every aspect of the business, which was great, they were just kind of like, yeah, okay, we've seen it all. We've done it all. We're not interested.
We get it.
Exactly. Well, now there's a new business for the kids to kind of really watch and learn. And we can talk about things like supply chains. We can talk about P&Ls and financial models and financial statements. And we can talk about dealing with customers and fulfillment and dealing with like UPS and FedEx, which is like a whole new world. And basically how you start a brick and mortar business. And so the kids have loved it. My older son's in 10th grade. He's taking a business class this year. And like, he comes home and he's like, I'm learning more watching mom than I'm learning in the business class. And so,
man, how cool is that?
Yeah. And so for anybody out there, it's just a good reminder. If you're in real estate or any other business, if you have kids, use it as an opportunity to get them involved, because, I mean, even if they don't seem to care, you're going to find that as they get older, they're assimilating this stuff. They're absorbing the stuff that you're exposing them to. And it's just going to make them more entrepreneurial and more well-rounded as they get older.
Plus, you can bribe them with cookies if they won't do anything, right? I mean,
the kids have more willpower than Carol or me. It's crazy.
How do you? You're stealing one of those a day, right?
So I'm not actually allowed to have them. We have a whole freezer. We have a separate freezer in the garage, which is the burnt and broken cookies. If she burns cookies or breaks cookies, they go in this freezer, and the kids and I know we can take anything we want out of this freezer. Other than that, we can't touch anything.
So you're getting like the muffin stumps.
That's
off of,
exactly right. It's still
stumps.
Just admit it. You're sneaking them though. Still,
she keeps a pretty tight rein. She knows exactly what her inventory is.
I see Jay's head's behind the top freezer door. She opens the garage door to look in there, and he kind of like got chocolate crumbs all
pretty
over
much.
Just looking for dinner, honey.
the burnt ones, you gotta soak those in the milk just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Well, she gets surprised when she walks by the pan she just took out of the oven, and one of them just happens to be broken in half, and she's like, "How did that happen?" I'm like, "I have no idea," but now it has to go in the broken and burnt freezer.
That's
There is the answer that we were looking for.
I will carry it back there myself right now.
Yeah. Well, no, that's great. I appreciate the backstory there. But again, Smooch Cookie, you can Google that. It'll pop up. Wonderful, wonderful people. And the product's amazing.
I appreciate that.
Be careful. Because it's some good stuff and dangerous. So Jay, we'd be remiss to not ask you about a recent deal that you are working on in the great state of Texas.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about what that is.
Yeah. So back in 2018, flipping houses for 10 years, completely burned out, decided to move into multifamily. And for anybody out there that's flipping houses and burning out, one of the reasons you're probably burning out is because when you're flipping houses, I try and make this educational. If I'm going to talk, at least let me teach a little bit. One of the things I found with flipping houses that was hard was it's real hard not to be involved to some degree in every aspect of the business. And in flipping houses, there's basically 4 aspects. There's acquisitions, there's rehab, there's dispositions or selling, and then there's raising capital. And if you're going to run a business, you need to be involved in all of that to some degree. And most of us aren't good at all 4 of those things. I mean, being good at acquisition, sales and marketing, raising capital, renovations. I mean, that's a lot of very weird stuff to be good at all those things. And so one of the reasons I burned out was because there was a couple things in there I really loved and a couple things I hated and just burned me out. And so I moved into larger multifamily stuff. And one of the reasons I love larger stuff is because the numbers allow you to build a team. And when you have a team, you get to focus on those things that you're really good at and really love doing. And you can find other people to come in and focus on the other stuff. And there's enough money to support multiple people who are doing the things that they're really great at. And so I moved into multifamily so that I could focus on the things I love. I love underwriting, just being behind a spreadsheet. I love legal and compliance. So I'm the guy that works with our securities attorneys and our contracts attorneys. I tend to be pretty good at raising capital because I built this brand. So I focus on raising capital. And then my partner, Ashley Wilson, is really great at running things, operations. So she's our asset manager. She runs the property management or manages the property management side of things. She manages the money and the financial side of things. And so we've built an amazing team over at Bar Down Investments. And so for anybody out there that's burned out, like being a solopreneur, flipping houses or whatever, think about moving into bigger stuff because it really does allow you to focus on your strengths and bring in some great people to focus on the other stuff. But yeah, so we have about 1,000 units under management currently, and we just kicked off our first large development project. We're building 351 units outside of Dallas, Texas. So for us, this is a new challenge that we're really excited and looking forward to. Been working on this deal for almost 2 years and almost at the starting line. So we're closing the loan in about 3 weeks and we'll break ground. We have permits in hand. We'll break ground in April.
Wow. That is cool.
You guys take on some timely projects.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are dedicating like a percent of your life to some of the things you guys are doing.
So let's talk about why, again, maybe this will help people out there. Let's talk about why we decided to do development for the first time. So what we saw, we've always avoided development because it wasn't in our wheelhouse. It wasn't our core competency. And we didn't think it was the right place to be. But one of the things we've seen over the last couple of years is that with COVID, 2020, 2021, beginning of 2022, with 0% interest rates and basically mortgage rates in the 2, 3, 4% range, every developer and their brother came out and said, hey, I'm going to go buy land and start developing. And so many units were developed between 2021 and 2024 that we now have this glut of housing. There's so much housing, especially in the Sunbelt markets, in Texas, in the Southeast. There's so much housing that we're seeing low absorption levels, meaning we're not seeing a lot of demand from tenants. And so vacancies are going up, rents are coming down, and it's really not a great time to be investing, or it hasn't been a great time over the last couple of years to be investing in multifamily because so much new inventory has come online without a whole lot of new demand. But what we found was in 2022, 2023, 2024, interest rates spiked, as we all know. Interest rates went up. And so developers essentially stopped building. And so we've seen what are called housing starts. Basically, development of new units has dropped tremendously over the last year and a half. Because it takes 2 to 3 years to deliver multifamily units, things stopping a year ago means that in a year from now, 2 years from now, we're going to start to see very little new inventory coming online. But demand is still going up. And so what we suspect is that in 2027, 2028, there's going to be a rebalancing of housing in this country, in much of the country, where demand is going up, supply is coming down, and we're going to get back to the good old days of rents going up and vacancies coming down. And so what we said was, we want to be in multifamily with new units in the 27, 28 timeframe. And so that meant basically starting about a year ago to find land and to start the process. And so we think our timing is pretty good on this. We're going to be delivering in 27, 28, even into 29 new units. And so that's the reason we like development right now. So for anybody out there that's looking for a new opportunity, timing for development, we may be in a perfect time.
Yeah. And now that project, did it just end up working out this way to where the timing hit where it did? Or did you have like eyes or maybe it under contract prior to like all the, kind of everything, the brakes went out?
So no, we consciously made the decision that we wanted to move into development. We expected it would take longer than it did. We actually found this deal. A partner of ours found the deal, brought it to us, and we're partnering with him on the deal. We found it a lot faster than we expected. I think 2027, 2028 is going to be great years. I think 2029 is going to be even better. So we would have been happy if it took us another year to find the deal, but it was still great timing. We got very fortunate with the location where we bought the deal. Amazon decided to build an operations facility, an 1,100 employee operations facility a half mile from us, which they announced 4 months after we put the land under contract. The city and the state basically just announced a $250 million initiative to expand the road that runs right past our project. So we've gotten very fortunate with the timing as well. So
yeah, no, that's amazing. And I would think, just Omaha, for example, we're about 1 million population, and Dallas, I'm not sure what Dallas is at now. Is it 10?
It's not quite 10. It's pretty close.
Yeah. Okay. And there's people migrating. I mean, they're net positive big for population, right? On a annual basis.
It's the fastest growing MSA in the country.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. It sounds like you're set up for some success there in the kind of lagging years where new units are coming online. We've talked about that quite a bit, but it's just different in Omaha, a city like Omaha that's, kind of like this as opposed to like,
yeah. It's the Wayne Gretzky model of skate to where the puck's going to be. And we suspect that 2028, it's been a really tough couple years in multifamily. Anybody out there that's been in multifamily the last couple years, actively or passively, it's been a tough couple years. In fact, multifamily's dropped about 30 to 35% values across the nation in the last few years. Compare that to 2008, where it was down 20 to 25%. So it's literally a worse recession in multifamily the past few years than we saw after 2008.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do you think that's bottom out right now?
I think we're probably pretty close to the bottom. We've been bouncing along the bottom. The funny thing is, we saw a major recession in this sector right after interest rates started to go up in March of 2022. By August of 22, we were down 20 to 25%. So since August of 2022, we've only dropped another 5 to 10%. And we've been bouncing along the bottom for the last couple years. And basically it's because so much supply has been coming online. And so I do think the next couple years will be a good opportunity to buy.
Love that. Well, Jay, this has been so fun, and I'm really glad that your kids are on spring break this week, which we didn't realize when we were putting this together, but I was curious. I started thinking, I'm like, where do you even go when you already live in a beautiful, sunny place? Like, do you go on spring break?
Well,
or
you're going to laugh at this. So my youngest and I, my older son and I, we have a lot in common. Music. He's a musician, and we go to concerts together. And my younger son and I, he's introverted like I am, and so we don't spend a lot of. I mean, we have a great relationship, but we don't spend a lot of time together because we don't like go to do things together. Just the two of us, we do family stuff. And so for Christmas, I said, let's just do a father-son trip over spring break. Just the two of us get to spend some time together bonding. And at the time we were trying to figure out a place to go. And my wife said, how about Chicago? Chicago's a great town. And I was like, that's a really good idea. Let's do Chicago. And so we went to Chicago Saturday through Tuesday this week. And when we got there, it was 11 degrees. And
that just left Omaha. Yeah. We know exactly what it was. Yeah.
So when you talk about like going on spring break, we live in Sarasota, Florida, where it's warm pretty much the whole year round. We decided to go someplace that was like 12 degrees instead.
Hurt your face cold. Yeah.
Hey, well, today's the first day of spring, and it's supposed to be what, 92 today, which is the hottest day ever in this month in history.
The whole country is seeing a big heat wave.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, Jay, what else? Anything cooking in your world? Are you looking for anything in your business or life where somebody catching this might be able to help?
No, but if anybody wants to reach out, always happy to chat. We've got nothing to pitch. We've got nothing to sell. But if you want to get on my newsletter list or our mailing list, or you have any questions about us and our business, go to jscott.com, just letter J, SCOTT.com. As we were talking about before the show, I spent a lot of money for that domain, so I hope everybody will use it. That'll link you out to all the important stuff.
And if you go to our show notes, you'll be able to see a link to all of Jay's books that he has written. What, 5?
5 books.
5 books. And you got no one in a hopper, I'm sure.
I don't actually. I'm taking a hiatus from writing. I found that with AI, somebody can outright me pretty easily, and so I'm not gonna be able to keep up.
Well, you just need to come up with another name, and that'll be now your pen name.
There you go.
And then you can start releasing these under a new name, and it'll be all good.
There you go. And I'll send you a link to the poker video on YouTube, so you can post that in the show notes so everybody can make fun of me.
Yes, I love.
He was looking for that.
I was. I have this saved in my pictures for future blackmail purposes. Hey, one last question. I thought this would be kind of fun. And this is just to needle Mauricio a little bit. What are your top 3? Not the top 10, but the top 3. What are the top 3 things remaining on Jay Scott's bucket list? Not be the top, but what's on there? Anything you haven't done yet?
I don't really have a bucket list. I'm a homebody. So like my wife loves to travel. I'd be happy just never leaving the house. So I think for me, I'm just enjoying the family, and I'm looking forward to the kids going to college. Not that I want to get rid of them, but I'm just looking forward to like helping them into their next chapter. I think the next chapter with my wife and we're going to do a lot of traveling when the kids are out of the house. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll probably work till the day I die. So I'm just looking forward to continuing to do big projects. Bucket list. I don't really have anything on the bucket list. It's a weird thing to say.
That's a great statement, though. I mean, to be able to say something like that is that means you've done some stuff.
I've done some stuff, but for me, I'm just so grateful for like the little things and just the life we have. And I don't need big stuff or big gestures. For me, it's just being grateful for all the little stuff and.
All right. Well, I'm going to create my bucket list for you then.
Okay.
There's one thing on it.
I do have one thing. I want to come to Oklahoma City. Oh, I'm sorry, Omaha. Omaha. Omaha.
Jeez.
Omaha.
This is like Pearl Jam getting up.
Can we cut that? Let's do that again. I want to come to Omaha, Nebraska.
There it is.
It's like saying Disney.
I'm gonna visit Warren Buffett and you guys. That's my bucket list.
He lives right down the street. We can drive right on by.
There you go. My bucket list.
Well, Jay, my bucket list item for you is simply this. I need you I would bet you probably have, maybe in storage, but a copy of Doyle Brunson's Super System book. Is it on your bookshelf? I had a feeling you might have it. Volume 1, Volume 2.
What is this book?
He's going to bring it back. We'll see here.
1 and 2.
Nice. I still have both of those also. I probably saw Jay on TV and just didn't realize it at the time because I was really into poker. And I have both of those. And so I want you to dust those off. And you don't have to win a qualifier since you're rich and famous now. You can just pay the entry fee. And I want you to win the No Limit World Series main event.
There you go. I would love that. Here's another fun fact for anybody that that wants to dig it up. You can probably go type Jason Steinhorn and poker into Google, and you'll find I used to do a lot of statistical analysis on poker hands and stuff before.
Counting cards.
So
Jay is now banned from the Rio. But
back before all the books came out, there were these forums and news groups on the internet, and they'd have names like rec.gambling.poker, and they were just like text-based news forums. Yeah. And I was involved in one that was the big poker one at the time. And I wrote a whole bunch of computer programs that did statistical analysis of poker hands. And some of them ended up getting picked up and being used in some very famous books. If you're familiar with David Sklansky. So he and I worked on some stuff like back in the 90s.
Did you ever play against Phil Hellmuth? So
I didn't tell the story, but remember I said that very first tournament that I played before, the one that I did really well in, so Phil was at my table, and he's the one that knocked me out, and he and I got into a big fight at the table.
No way. Oh my God.
He thought I was slow rolling something. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, Phil and I lived in Northern California, and he and I have played a whole bunch, and we became friends after that, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's cool. The poker brat. See, Ted, you got to get up on this stuff, man. We'll. I'm gonna start just feeding Ted clips of poker from back then. Here we go. So,
yeah, there's actually footage somewhere in one of the earlier World Series of Poker events. Actually, that event, which happened, was on World Series of Poker on ESPN the week before, and you can see me and Phil at the table where one of us knocks over all of our chips and we're yelling at each other.
Oh, I love this. Okay. All right. So you internet sleuths out there that are listening, let's surface these videos, and we'll make sure and link them so Jay is thoroughly embarrassed. And his kids are going to show it to their classmates at school, and
they won't care.
No. But Jay, thanks again, man. Really appreciate the short notice and being so gracious with your time. And congrats on the new development, all the stuff you have going. You're now the prognosticator of prognosticators with the economy. So keep doing what you're doing, man. We really appreciate you. I know all of our listeners are big fans, and we're anxiously awaiting more content.
I appreciate it. I can't wait to come back and do this again.
Yes. Not Oklahoma City, though.
No
kidding. All right, Jay. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy spring break.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for being episode 1, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
all right. Take care.